بسم الله الذي لا إله سواه الواحد الأحد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. والحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه يليق بكماله في جماله وجلاله وجزيل نعمائه، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف أنبيائه سيدنا مولانا محمد ابن عبد الله الصادق الأمين الرسول المبين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، وعلى آله الطاهرين الطيبين وأصحابه الميامين والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم اجعلنا منهم. Ameen. In these few moments, almost an hour that we have, inshallah ta'ala, till Salatul Isha, excuse me, I have elected to, inshallah ta'ala, remind myself and you of aspects of our deen, of our faith, most importantly here in the spiritual dimension. We live in a world, and the world is becoming more and more a world that is very dry as far as the soul and the heart and the spirit are concerned. As Muslims even, we have too often disregarded the most essential dimension of Islam, namely the spiritual and moral dimension. Sometimes our preoccupation with that which is legitimately so, but only from one side, such as the rational side of it, have made us oblivious and very neglectful to that which is the soul of our existence and the soul of our faith, without which there will always be dryness inside of us, and dryness leads to itching and pain and hurt. So it is always necessary, especially in these days, to always balance and bring equilibrium in our lives by never relegating the spiritual dimension of our deen to second position. It must always be essential and important. It must be even the envelope in which we put everything good else inside it. It must be the envelope in which we understand the usul or the fiqh and the fiqh and the aqidah and the ahkam. It must be the envelope in which we put all of those. Must be the envelope in which we put all concerns of our lives, lest indeed we shall become very lonely in a desert with scorching heat that is in our lives, and we will find no water to give us life. Rasuluna sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in expressing the will of Allah in the Quran, has of course always emphasized, always lived as an emphasis and taught as an emphasis the spiritual dimension, whether he was in Mecca or in Medina. All the time, everything he has done, everything he has taught, everything he has said was in that envelope of the spiritual awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until the last breath of his most noble life in this world, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. That is a brief introduction. I would like to share with you from the words of one of the very well-known of many teachers and sages of our Islamic tradition, a man who lived in the 13th century and the early 14th century in the Gregorian era, or the 7th and early 8th century Hijri in Egypt. A scholar who was first a student of ilm for most of his young life, student of fiqh, student of usul al-fiqh, student of the language, of the Arabic language and grammar and syntax and so on, and dialectic theology, and logic. And he was a very rational scholar, rahimahullah ta'ala. And in the beginning, because that was his training all the time, he also was very, very, as he realized later, very dry. And he was so enamored and enveloped in the rational sciences of Sharia that he used to be an avowed opponent to the spiritual dimensions. Let me put it in this way, rahimahullah ta'ala. Until as he matured more, and he learned more, and he diversified his sources of knowledge and of companionship, then he was very attracted also to the spiritual dimension of Islam. And he took guides and teachers, great masters of the time, to learn from this aspect of our faith. And that's the second, if you will, phase of his life, in which he was fully immersed in the spiritual dimension of Islam after having mastered the rational dimensions and continued in the rational dimensions as well. But now it seems using the envelope and having and acquiring that spiritual envelope in which everything is to be put. And he continued his life, and the third stage of his life, after he moved from Alexandria to Cairo, where he lived and died, rahimahullah ta'ala, the rest of his life was full-fledged sharing and practicing and sharing this balance, this equilibrium between the rational and the spiritual, most importantly emphasizing the spiritual, rahimahullah ta'ala. And he became very, very well known in the circles of the ulama of his time, and thereafter, rahimahullah ta'ala, most of them, even opponents, have granted him veneration and respect on account of his, first of all, scholarly aptitude and his spiritual sensibilities and transparencies, rahimahullah ta'ala, and became very, very well known, especially for that which is called, and who knows what I'm talking about? That which is called Al-Hikam. Al-Hikam, Hikam ibn Ata'illah al-Sakandari. The name of the teacher was Ibn Ata'illah al-Sakandari, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Ata'illah al-Sakandari, rahimahullah ta'ala. The aphorisms or the words of wisdom of Ibn Ata'illah, rahimahullah ta'ala, who have become of the most read and the most loved and the most studied of words of wisdom, that in a spiritual language, rahimahullah ta'ala, he basically takes the student and the learned students into the realm and the path of nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through over 240 of those aphorisms, 260, rahimahullah ta'ala. I chose the following to share with you tonight, inshallah ta'ala, through some reflections about them. He said, تشوفك إلى ما بطن فيك من العيوب، تشوفك إلى ما بطن فيك من العيوب خير من تشوفك إلى ما حجب عنك من الغيوب، خير من تشوفك إلى ما حجب عنك من الغيوب. تشوفك first إلى ما بطن فيك من العيوب. تشوفك إلى ما بطن فيك من العيوب. We human beings, including believing men and women and seekers, we have aspirations. We have curiosities. We want things. We want to achieve things. We want to know things of all sorts. Of those things is that we want to know that which is hidden from us. We are curious. And sometimes curiosity leads us to an earnest, very arduous search, energetic one, to find out what is hidden from us. And of what is hidden from us that we seek sometimes, guess what? Are they hidden knowledge from us? Such as things that we have no knowledge about. Yes, that we are given. That unknown, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about it. But here this is about disciplining the self. What we are curious about, for example, is to know more about the untold, unexperienced secrets of Allah's creation. Secrets of karamat, of miracles, of sainthood. Secrets of how the Divine subhanahu wa ta'ala did that or did that, did this or did that. The modalities, for example, and the details or the specifics of things that are beyond our grasp. We want to know, the hidden secrets of Allah's relationship with some of His creation. We want to know, the deepest recesses of the hidden dimensions from us. Like, tell me, how come Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani knows about what people harbor in their hearts, it is said? I want to know. How do miracles happen? What can I do to have miracles? Things like that. This is hidden from us. This is ghaib that is hidden from us. This is the realm of Allah's rububiyyah, of Allah's lordship. It's beyond me. That's not what Allah Azza wa Jal has required from me. Or what else sometimes we want to know that is hidden from us. More earthly but beyond us, and we're not meant to find out. No. What is he thinking inside of him? What are the defects in that person? What are the uyub, which are uyub in this case for me? What are the defects that this person has inside, which are hidden from me? Someone to know, someone to guess, etc. Versus something else that is in us and deeply rooted in us, hidden in us, and we are aware of. And they are our uyub, our defects, our hidden, latent, lurking defects inside of us. So he says, تشوفك إلى ما بطن فيك من العيوب. Your aspiration and search for what lurks inside of you and is hidden inside of you of defects and of stain and of ailments such as arrogance, conceitedness, ostentation, self-admiration, love for leadership, boastfulness, greed, that you aspire and search arduously to discover them and to know them, is much better for you than to strive and struggle to find out what is hidden from you in the world of the beyond and in the world of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's secrets or in the hearts of others. You know, mind your business, as we say. Mind your business. Mind yourself. Sometimes this is what we are. And sometimes maybe even people who take the path of Allah Azza wa Jalla, the path of religiosity and the path of faith and the path of ilm, become, as they lose focus and they become only rational and they lose focus, spiritual focus also, they become interested in these things, more to discover, more to discover, more to discover, and look what I'm doing, more to discover beyond, beyond, beyond me. And I forget to discover what is inside of me. For me to strive to discover what is hidden inside of me, even from me, of diseases of my heart and of my soul, is much more virtuous, much more important, much more obligatory and necessary and much more immediate than me working to find out what is hidden from me, that is beyond me and not about me. SubhanAllah. Because what we want to know, what is outside, is usually, as he says, rahimahullah ta'ala, here the commentator, لأن هذا من حظ نفسك. We want to discover this and that. That is, in the reality, simply a nafs drive. حظ النفس. It's a nafs drive. It's a low, base, nafsani, selfish drive. While to discover what's inside of me, of weaknesses and of ailments, is not a selfish drive. The nafs doesn't want to be exposed. That's a divine right. And that's a divine obligation. And there is a difference between entertaining my nafs desire and my nafs exigencies and entertaining my Lord's rights and requirements. Isn't it? Which one? Second one. Aina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala demands from us istiqamah, that we are upright and straight and clean inside. And my nafs demands from me karama. My nafs demands from me ennoblement. The nafs demands to be dignified, to be elevated, and to satisfy its own desires of knowledge that has nothing to do with what Allah requires of me. That I have karama or I discover karama has nothing to do with ubudiyah. Allah never requested from me to be one with karamat or to discover karamat, but to discover my nafs and to change my nafs. So he says in this beautiful way, إذا تشوفك إلى ما بطن فيك من العيوب خير لك من تشوفك إلى ما حجب عنك من الغيوب. And it rhymes. عيوب versus غيوب. So we can in English put it in this way while we keep the word عيوب. And we make it an English word. And غيوب. Invent a word. Be mindful of your uyub. Be mindful of your uyub. And forget about the ghuyub. Or you can put it in this way. Knowing uyub, my uyub, takes priority over knowing ghuyub. Subhanallah. And this is a challenge. This is a challenge. He says next, rahimahullah ta'ala, and this is connected to the previous one. الحق ليس بمحجوب سبحانه وتعالى. الحق ليس بمحجوب وإنما المحجوب أنت عن النظر إليه. وإنما المحجوب أنت عن النظر إليه. This part only. الحق, that is the ultimate reality, Allah Azza wa Jal, is not veiled. Is not veiled. However, and verily, you are the one who is veiled from accessing Him, from beholding Him, from experiencing Him, from seeing Him with your heart and soul. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may He be exalted, nothing can veil Him. Right? How can the creation veil the Creator? Think about it. How can the finite veil infinity? See, it's that simple. Allah is not veiled. You are veiled, He says, from beholding Him. I am the one who is veiled. I am the one who is veiled from experiencing Him, from knowing Him, from feeling Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now, what veils me? My nafs. The traits and the characteristics of my nafs, they veil me. They veil my heart and my ruh from experiencing the divine, subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we say my nafs and the traits of my nafs, they are, in other words, what's the other word? My uyub. My uyub. My uyub, the word we have used before. The plural of aib, defect, ailment. The uyub of my nafs, like arrogance, like ghurur, like delusion, like ujub, conceitedness, like greed and miserliness, bukhl and shuh, like desire for wealth and desire for recognition and status and power, leadership. These veil me from experiencing Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is not veiled. Didn't He say in the Quran that He's nearer to us than our jugular vein? وَهُوَ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. But because even that close, and everything in creation that we see, if we have hearts that are free, tells us that He is. Everything that is a sort of a message from Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we are clouded from reading it properly by the traits of our nufus. Allah says, كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ كَلَّا إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ. And Allah tells us, yes, they are veiled from their Lord. Not Allah is veiled from them. They are veiled from their Lord. كَلَّا إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ. And what did that? The nafs. And the characteristics of the nafs. Subhanallah. So, and when we know this, and through this beautiful hikmah, then we link it to the previous one, and this is a major reason why I want to mind the uyub inside of me instead of minding the ghuyub outside of me. For this reason, I must be very careful and mindful of the defects inside of me, rather than the unknown and hidden outside of me in the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if one wants to be unveiled and connects to the Divine subhanahu wa ta'ala and reaches with his soul and his heart the Divine subhanahu wa ta'ala, he or she must rid themselves of the characteristics of sifat and nafsaniyah, the nafsani traits and characteristics, such as examples: al-ghurur, wal-kibr, wal-riya, وحب الرئاسة والعجب وهكذا والبخل والشح والحسد والطمع وهكذا. Subhanallah. And if we keep doing that, the veil will lift and lift and lift until the heart is in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. That is, he, as they say, reaches the level of shuhud. 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 And what is shuhud? When the qalb has reached a level of cleanliness and of purity, such that the person inside is always aware, as though he sees Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, aware of Allah Azza wa Jal experientially. It never leaves. That relationship never leaves his or her internal being. That's what shuhud is. Shuhud is not, wal-iyadhu billah, that with these eyes you see the divine essence. That doesn't exist. No finite can behold the infinite. But your qalb is in mushahada. And therefore he says the next one, beautifully said, اخرج من أوصاف بشريتك. اخرج من أوصاف بشريتك عن كل وصف مناقض لعبوديتك. عن كل وصف مناقض لعبوديتك لتكون لنداء الحق مجيبا. لتكون لنداء الحق مجيبا ومن حضرته قريبا. ومن حضرته قريبا. اخرج, leave, exit, leave behind you, exit, get out. From where? From what? أوصاف بشريتك, the traits of your humanity, the traits of your بشرية, Adamic traits, الآدمية أو البشرية. First of all, what are these أوصاف البشرية? The commentator رحمه الله تعالى, Imam Shurnubi, states beautifully, أوصاف بشريتي, the traits of my being a human, are two: external and internal. إما ظاهرة وإما باطنة. As a person, as a human being, I have external manifestations and traits and internal ones. The external one are obviously what I do, how I behave, how I comport myself externally, the way I use my senses, external senses and limbs, how I use my جوارح. هذه صفاتي. أرى وأشم وأسمع وأقول وأبطش وأضرب وآخذ وأضع وأرفع وأمشي وآكل وإلى غير ذلك وألمس. These are external صفات, traits. I see, I hear, I speak, I eat, I drink, I strike, I touch, I smell, I walk, I go, I come back. And, these external تصرفات, external actions. These are my صفات. وإما باطنة, internal صفات, internal traits, and they are the actions of my internal being, my heart, if you will. أعمال القلوب, أعمال الجوارح and أعمال القلوب. These are the بشري, natural, human, Adamic صفات, traits. And for both of them, in the case of external and in the case of internal, what I do externally is either obedience to Allah or disobedience to Allah. And internally also, what I harbor inside, what I am inside, the drives inside, the energy inside of me, the volitions and the wills and the intentions and the desires and the momenta inside of me are either good or bad, are either obedience to Allah or disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we, as he says rahimahullah ta'ala, وَالنَّظَرُ فِيمَا يَتَعَلَّقُ بِالْأَعْمَالِ الظَّاهِرَةِ مِنْ طَاعَةٍ أَوْ مَعْصِيَةٍ يُسَمَّى تَفَقُّهًا. Interesting information. When we mind and we are careful and we gauge and we assess and we evaluate what we do externally, how we use our limbs, our senses externally, obedience or disobedience, to know that and to learn that, that is the realm of the ilm of what? Fiqh, of tafaqquh. Fiqh. The discipline and the science in Sharia of the ahkam al-fiqhiyah, the legal rulings of what is permissible and what is not permissible, what is obligatory, what is prohibited, what is recommended, what is reprehensible, what is lawful simply, وهكذا. This is the realm of what? Of fiqh. And we have to have that. And that a person who knows that, and learns that well, تفقه, has learned fiqh. Especially in the later definition of the word fiqh, actually. And as far as what concern the acts of the heart, what we harbor inside, and to know them, and to distinguish between that which is obedience and that which is disobedience inside of us, that is the realm of the spiritual dimension of Islam. That is the fiqh of the batin, if you will, versus the fiqh of the zahir. The fiqh of zahir versus the fiqh of al-batin. Call it fiqh al-batin, call it الأبعاد الروحية للإسلام, the spiritual dimensions of Islam. You can call it sometimes tasawwuf in the right usage of the word. وهكذا. But that is part, an essential part of the deen. So what I am outside is the realm of external fiqh. What I am outside is the realm of internal fiqh. And what I am outside and inside together, he says here, are my sifat, my traits. That's what I am, external and internal. And then he says, وَمَتَى صَلُحَ الْبَاطِنُ صَلُحَ الظَّاهِرُ. متى صلح أو صلح الباطن صلح أو صلح الظاهر. And when the batin inside is rectified, is upright, is correct, then the external will be upright and correct. Because it is said, as it is said, the heart is the king. And the jawarih and the limbs and the senses are the soldiers.
So the opposite isn't true. So the opposite isn't true if your external is controlled, but your internal isn't. You know what I mean?
We'll get to that perhaps. If the qalb is clean, if the qalb is truly clean, the jawarih will be clean. The jawarih will be clean. If the qalb is not clean, sometimes there is a manifestation of external uprightness. That is usually not authentic. It's only very transient. Or the person is exhibiting that for the sake of a certain nafsani interests. And it will not last. Or sometimes that is nifaq, as it is said, as you know, hypocrisy. But when and if we are inside clean, we will be outside clean. Always when we falter and we fumble externally, that's a statement about what we are internally. Internally is hidden. And we have a taste of it and an experience of it through the way we externalize our internal energies, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we use our tongues and we use our eyes and we use our hands and so on and so forth. Now, and the salah of the qalb, and the correctness and the uprightness of the qalb, إنما يكون بالتخلي عن كل وصف مناقض للعبودية. And the qalb will be upright and rectified and clean if the qalb is liberated and cleansed from every characteristic and every trait that is contradictory to the ubudiyyah that Allah Azza wa Jal wants from me. The ubudiyyah, the loving servitude that Allah wants from me. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. To be in a state of ubudiyyah. And only when I liberate my qalb from that which is inconsistent with the condition of ubudiyyah, such as examples we have mentioned, arrogance, ghurur, delusion, ostentation, riya, conceitedness, ujub, greed, bukhl and shuh, hasad, violent envy, tama', a person who is low and wants anything that others have, desire for being the head all the time, desire for recognition and status, attachment and love for wealth, etc. These things inside of us, anger, impatience, lack of forbearance, all of these things inside of us. These are antithetical to the ubudiyyah for which we are created. We must strive to liberate our hearts from that. So he says, اخرج من أوصاف بشريتك عن كل وصف مناقض لعبوديتك. Exit from your so-called human traits. Those traits that are inconsistent with the trait of your ubudiyyah. Get rid of that. Liberate yourself from that. From every trait inside of me that is antithetical, inconsistent with the ubudiyyah. Being arrogant is inconsistent with ubudiyyah. Being maghrur, self-deluding or deluded is inconsistent with ubudiyyah, because shaitan is a maghrur and gharur. When I want to be famous and I want to be known, especially in acts of goodness and of ibadah, that's shaitani. That's inconsistent with ubudiyyah. When I am angry and I hurt with my anger others, spouse, or children, or neighbors, or friends, or others, or animals, or plants, that's inconsistent with ubudiyyah. Al-ghadabu min al-shaytan, as Rasulullah teaches. Anger is but a trait of shaitan, of the devil, wal-iyadhu billah. Wa alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. هذه الأوصاف لا تناسب وصف العبودية. I must أخرج من أوصاف بشريتك، الأوصاف التي تتناقض مع عبوديتك، مع وصف عبوديتك. And then when you do that and you acquire and you embellish your qalb instead with the awsaf of your ubudiyyah, with the traits that are consistent with ubudiyyah. Instead of arrogance, what should there be? Humbleness. Now, are we working on that? Do we have a schedule as Muslims, let alone others, who say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah? Do I or you, do we learn so importantly to do these things? No, we don't. Very rare. Do we learn fiqh of salah and fiqh of zakah and fiqh of sawm? Do we? Yes, we do. And it's good to do that. But most of us think that that's what Islam is. And then I let my heart, my mind, my emotions, my drives, my feelings inside roam and surf freely. Scholars do that. Some. Students of ilm do that. Dua do that. Some. We do that. Only when we change that, we exchange arrogance for humbleness. We exchange greed for generosity. We exchange conceitedness, self-admiring, for also humility. And that we see the gift of Allah, we don't see ourselves. We see what we have truly as a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not my efforts, not my work. We exchange love for being the first, always. Love for being the head. Love for status and recognition for what? Being servant. And that's humility and humbleness also. Being servant. Serve others, not always thinking of wanting the head of others, but to serve others. Exchange the awsaf of المناقضة لوصف العبودية بأوصاف ملائمة ومناسبة لوصف عبوديتي. When I do that, my heart cleanses and cleanses and cleanses until it becomes able to, as he said, لِتَكُونَ لِنِدَاءِ الْحَقِّ مُجِيبًا. In order that you become responsive to the call of the ultimate truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you know what that call is? You know, the call meaning anything, right? For which Allah calls us. But he puts it, rahimahullah ta'ala, the commentator, Imam al-Shurnubi, rahimahullah ta'ala, Nida'u al-haqq, ya abdi. Then you become an abd of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then you will respond to the call of Allah Azza wa Jal, oh my abd. You become then a real abd. And then you hear the call with your heart that is now liberated. And you feel the honor. And you respond, Ya Rabbi. Ya Abdi. And you respond, Ya Rabbi, inside of you, before it is outside of you. When the qalb has been liberated from the attributes that are inconsistent with the intended ubudiyyah, then and only then Allah will call you Ya Abdi. And then you will respond positively and naturally and lovingly and delightfully, Ya Rabbi, command me. Allahu Akbar. Instead of, we don't hear that call. We hear only the call of my nafs, my drives, in prosperity or in adversity, at home, at work, in conflicts, in challenges, in opportunities. We don't hear that divine voice inside of us because we have not yet prepared that heart to be a receiver of the divine call. Subhanallah. ومن حضرته قريبا لتكون لنداء الحق مجيبا ومن حضرته قريبا. And then you become near to his hadra. Well, hadra in the Arabic language, first hadra, from which verb? Hadara. And hadara, huduran, means what? To come, to be present, to be here, to be present, not absent. And al-hadra is that state, that condition in which one is present and present with others. The hadra. So, the hadra of Allah, that you become near to the hadra of Allah. What do they mean by that? He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْمُرَادَ بِحَضْرَةِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى حيث أطلقت في لسان القوم شهود العبد أنه بين يدي الله تعالى. فما دام هذا مشهده فهو في حضرة الله. فإذا حجب عن هذا المشهد فقد خرج منها. What is the hadra of Allah? Hazra. You say hazra. Hadra. That is a metaphor to mean the following. That the person is aware internally, as we mentioned earlier, that he or she is watched by Allah Azza wa Jal. That he or she is aware, fully aware inside of the presence of Allah Azza wa Jal in ways that keep becoming more and more powerful. Now you are in the hadra. As long as you are in that condition inside of you, spiritually overwhelmed by that awareness of Allah watching over you, Allah with His attributes, subhanahu wa ta'ala, as though you see Him. That's His hadra. When you are like that, you are in hadra and in hudur. And if you lose that condition, that awareness at some time, or for many of us all the time, unfortunately, or most of the time, then you lost that hadra. Of course it is ghafla. It is big time ghafla. Of course it is ghafla. Ghafla is many levels, many manifestations. Of course. This is absent-mindedness, absent in awareness. Not only ghafla, also ghafla of not even being in dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's ghafla. This is at a deeper level even. وَمِنْ حَضْرَتِهِ قَرِيبًا. And then you become nearer to the hadra of Allah Azza wa Jalla. When you do what? When we exit from the awsaf, the traits, the characteristics of our nafsani drive, of our bashariyah. When we exit from all internal characteristics or energies or drives or intentions or volitions or desires or lack thereof that are inconsistent with our ubudiyyah to Allah Azza wa Jalla. And we gave many examples. As we continue to do that, and we embrace in our hearts the opposite characteristics of those, insha'Allah ta'ala, as we said, our hearts will respond easily to the call of Allah. With delight, with happiness, with joy, with ease. We are free. Remember, my dear brothers and sisters, here, through these very, very important reminders, I repeat, that we do not take this as an essential objective in our lives. We do not. And all of us must. And unless we become children in the spiritual sense, we don't know. And we introduce this in our lives as adults, but are infants when it comes to our spiritual development and moral development. And we make it an objective. We want to learn that as we have learned and we are learning the ABCs of other disciplines, of other sciences. And very importantly, of fiqh and of usul al-fiqh, if we do, and of tafsir, and of hadith, and of usul al-hadith, and of usul al-aqidah, and this and that, and of grammar, of nahu, and of sarf, and of this, and balagha. As we do that, and we incessantly, for decades, we do just that. It had to have been done early on along with these things. So that by the age I'm 20 or 30 or 40, I am hopefully enriched, not only intellectually and rationally, but most importantly, spiritually and morally. And I put all that rational knowledge and scholarly knowledge in the envelope of my spiritual learning and my spiritual practicing. Because it is not intended only to be learned, but practiced. And no practice, no knowledge. And then he says, and therefore, أصل كل معصية, in another aphorism, in another hikmah, أصل كل معصية وغفلة وشهوة الرضا عن النفس. وأصل كل طاعة ويقظة وعفة عدم الرضا منك عنها. Which means the root cause or the root source of every sin, of every disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jal, and therefore of every sin, and the source of every state of ghafla. Ghafla, absent-mindedness, lack of remembrance, distraction, etc., heedlessness, not in a state of awareness. And the root cause of every shahwa, every base drive inside of us, the shahwa of shahwa, base drives inside of us, shahwa that lead to what it leads to of sins, because of this, the base drives we have inside of us. The root cause of these, of every sin, and the others are just as corollaries, and of every ghafla, lack of tanabbuh, lack of dhikr, lack of wakefulness, and of every shahwa, that is the appetite that we have for base drives. The root cause of that is when one feels satisfied with his own or her own self. الرضا عن النفس. I'm pleased with myself. I'm pleased with myself. I'm pleased with my nafs. Myself here is a nafs. The nafs. Not the ruh, not the qalb, not the nafs al-mutma'inna, not the mutma'in nafs or the angelic nafs. When, I'm fine, I'm okay, I like me, I like myself. وأصل كل طاعة, continue, وأصل كل طاعة ويقظة وعفة عدم الرضا منك عنها. And the root cause of every state of obedience to Allah Azza wa Jal, the opposite, and of every state of alertness and vigilance and wakefulness, and the root cause of every state of iffa, the opposite of shahwa. What is the opposite of having a drive for and a base appetite? Is to hold back, to withhold. What's the word for that? Not only that, no. La ilaha illallah. It's on the tip of my tongue. I forgot it again. To have want to be to have a sanctity inside of you, the opposite of shahwa. The opposite, the root cause of these is The opposite. عدم الرضا منك عنها is when you are not one who is pleased with his own nafs. In other words, you never take your nafs for granted. We never take our nafs for granted. When we remain always alert, we do not say, I am fine. We say, I need help. We do not say, I am not arrogant. No, not me. I am not deluded. No, not me. I'm not conceited. No, not me. I'm not an angry person. No, not me. I'm not a high-tempered person. No, not me. I'm not a restless person. No, not me. I'm not a greedy person. No, not me. I'm fine. When we are like this, or we're not like this, that's the root cause of being good. Why? And then he continues, وَلَأَنْ تَصْحَبَ جَاهِلًا لَا يَرْضَى عَنْ نَفْسِهِ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنْ أَنْ تَصْحَبَ عَالِمًا يَرْضَى عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. And it is better for you to be in the company of an ignorant person. In other words, ignorant here, a person not alim, who does not have a lot of ilm of rational sciences, a lot of ilm of fiqh, a lot of ilm of syntax and grammar and philosophy and dialectics, and a lot of ilm of usul and this and that. But that person, لا يرضى عن نفسه. That person, by experience, is never pleased with his own self. Always critical of his own self. The company of a person like this is better for you than the company of an alim who has a lot of knowledge, rational knowledge, fiqh, usul, lugha, badi', balagha, falsafa, ilm kalam, wa halumma jarra. Lot of that, but he's so pleased with his own self. He said the suhbah of the first one is better for you than the companionship of the second one. Why? Why? Because, of course, if I'm the second one, I'm with this alim who knows a lot. May Allah forgive us all. But his nafs, he doesn't mind. And he doesn't have the ilm of how to tame the nafs. A lot of rational ilm, but no spiritual envelope. No moral envelope. And his nafs is inflated. يرضى عن نفسه. And the nafs could be, for example, plagued with, that nafs of mine could be plagued with diseases. And in the companionship of such a person, I'm going to learn by experience. By hanging out with them. And I'm going to take those traits. Whereas if I walked and was in the company of someone who did not have that much ilm, but had apparently the practical ilm of taming his nafs, and I see that his person is always, I learned from being with him that I should never trust my nafs. I should always be critical of my nafs and rectifying my nafs. In the presence of this one, in the companionship of this one, I shall develop and evolve and improve. In the presence and the companionship of the first one, I shall devolve and digress and learn to be even more arrogant and more deluded. SubhanAllah. ولأن تصحب جاهلا لا يرضى عن نفسه خير لك من أن تصحب عالما يرضى عن نفسه وأي جهل لجاهل لا يرضى عن نفسه. End of quote. وأي جهل لجاهل لا يرضى عن نفسه. And then what ignorance is left after all for one who is ignorant, that is, doesn't have that much information, who is displeased with his own self? Because knowledge is intended to, knowledge sacred, knowledge religious, is intended to help us change our qulub so that our qulub, our characters, become the character of one who is in ubudiyyah to Allah Azza wa Jal. And if this person whom we call jahil doesn't have enough ilm as I or X or Y or Z, but his character, he does not have that much, just have enough. But his character or her character is more beautiful than the character of this one filled with information and knowledge to share. Ultimately, which one is more beneficial to me? The latter, for my nafs. As long as I have just enough knowledge. And a person with beautiful character, as he continues or she continues to live, and to live by that character, will learn more. And in a deeper and more experiential way than the person who does not have that character. For example, a person who has a character of humility and humbleness will be ready to learn more. But a person who knows and is arrogant will always feel nobody has to teach him anything. Will always feel he or she or I cannot learn anything from anybody else. And that person will never learn more. Will only learn more about, wal-'iyadhu billah, being low and base in his or her nafs. Wal-'iyadhu billah. These are, my dear brothers and sisters, some of the beautiful hikam that I wanted to share with you tonight, the intent behind which is to reawaken in us the drive to prioritizing what we learn and how we learn. The ilm of the qulub has been relegated to secondary positions. It must not remain so. It must not remain so. It must regain its primacy. It must regain its first place, its enveloping place, as it should envelop and contain all the other good, rational, hopefully beneficial sciences and discipline we learn. We should be inside the envelope of the spiritual learning and practice. Otherwise, as you know, my dear brothers and sisters, Shaitan knows a lot. Shaitan knows a lot. But he was an inflated nafs. And that knowledge only kept him what? Distant from Allah Azza wa Jal. Not nearer to Allah Azza wa Jal. That knowledge and that information kept him only more remote and, wal-'iyadhu billah, and rejected and despised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Knowledge that is not, I repeat, in the envelope of the essential spiritual realities. To cleanse our qulub from the sifat and the attributes that are antithetical to our, you're not listening, to our ubudiyyah. antithetical to our عبودية. Examples: the sifat that are antithetical to our عبودية that we have, and we must liberate ourselves from them. كبر, رياء, غرور. Pardon? Pardon? Anger. That's English. I thought you were speaking in Arabic. Yes. Anger. Tell me. Lack of patience. Love for leadership. Ghafla. Heedlessness. Lack of vigilance. Love of wealth. Dunya meaning attachment to wealth and attachment to jah, to status and to power. Conceitedness, ujb, that is self-admiration. What else? Think what we have inside of us, not what others have. Laziness. Jealousy is that hasad, violent envy inside. Violent envy inside. Hasad. Wal-'iyadhu billah. You can go on and on the list. Each one of us has to do that, my dear brothers and sisters. This is the way to Allah. This is the deen. The deen is about akhlaq. The deen is about akhlaq. When our akhlaq are relegated to second position or to posterior position, the consequences are hurtful to us in our communities, in our relationships with others, and in the world of the hereafter. We must. Salah is intended to help us with that, not to be independent from this. Salah is intended to help us modify what we are inside and our character. It's not independent from that. Dua is intended to help us modify that, not independent from it. Siyam is intended to help us with this, not independent from it. Hajj and Umrah are intended to help us with this, not independent from it. Sadaqah and Zakah are intended to help us modify what we are inside, not independent from akhlaq. You all, hafizakumullah, agree that we say our deen is a whole, an integrated whole. We must not separate between what and what? You all say it, right? Between what and what? We must not separate between internal, external things we talk about. Usually you say, you don't say this. This is good to say. But people, when we say we should not, our deen is a whole, we should not separate between deen and dunya. We should not separate between worldly matters and religious matters. True or false? We say that. And that's true. But we forget all the time to understand the context of this and the consequence of this, and that we should not differentiate between salah and hajj and sadaqah and siyam and so on and our akhlaq. We should not. This statement has to be repeated and repeated and repeated again and again and again. And we start with 101. To learn it ourselves. To strive to practice it through Lab 101. And communicate it to our children. And learn it patiently. We must stop differentiating between dhikr and salah and my character. May Allah Azza wa Jal help us all. May Allah bring our hearts all together and our minds all together into this reality. Ya Rabb. اللهم ارزق أنفسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.